After a man refused to let black soldiers sit in first class, Leah Matthews, a sergeant, gave him a surprising note. Returning from a long, exhausting deployment, both physically and emotionally, Leah was finally heading home. Carrying her heavy duffel bag, all she wanted was rest. But before starting this video, let us know in the comment box where you are watching from this beautiful story. Leah was wearing her worn military uniform, showing signs of the tough times she had faced. Though she had experienced sleepless nights and the loss of friends, she carried herself with quiet dignity as she boarded her plane. To her surprise, Leah found out that she had been upgraded to first class. Perhaps the airline was thanking her for her service. Grateful but feeling a bit out of place, she sat down in the comfortable first-class seat. Around her were passengers dressed in fancy clothes and business suits. Just as she began to relax, a man approached her. He looked annoyed and skeptical. Well-dressed and appearing entitled, he said in a slurred voice, "Excuse me. I'm pretty sure you're in my seat." "This isn't where you're supposed to be," the man said. Leah looked at him confused. "No, I'm in seat 3A, she replied, holding up her ticket. The man glanced at it, then sneered, "There must be a mistake. You're a soldier, you should be in coach, not first class." A wave of humiliation and anger hit Leah. She had faced prejudice before, but it never got easier. Taking a deep breath, she calmly responded, "This is the seat I was assigned." The man shook his head mockingly. "Unbelievable," he muttered, looking around, as if expecting someone to back him up. "You don't belong here." Leah felt the eyes of other passengers on her, curious and judgmental. She considered offering to switch seats just to avoid more conflict when a flight attendant arrived. "Is there a problem?" the attendant asked, polite but firm. The man quickly explained his side, but the attendant smiled and said, "Sergeant Matthews, your seat is indeed in first class. Thank you for your service." She then turned to the man, "Your seat is in 5A. The man blushed, clearly embarrassed, and without an apology, sighed and walked back to his seat a few rows away. As Leah settled into her seat, she felt both relieved and frustrated. She tried to forget the earlier incident, but it kept bothering her as the plane took off. Before the in-flight movie started, she found herself reflecting on her time in the military. The sacrifices she and her fellow soldiers had made, the lives lost, and the friendships built. She also thought about the prejudice she'd faced both in and out of uniform, and how it still affected her. It wasn't just the man's words that hurt. It was the reminder that despite all she had done for her country, some people still saw her as less. This was a pain she had carried for years, one that never fully went away. As the flight continued, she noticed the man glancing at her with a look of disdain. She knew he was still thinking about their earlier exchange. Leah decided she couldn't let it end this way. She had faced far greater challenges in life, and wasn't going to let a stranger's prejudice ruin her journey home. She pulled out a small notepad from her bag and began writing something short but meaningful. "I'm proud to serve my country, to defend the freedoms we all enjoy, and to honor those who didn't make it home. I hope one day we can see each other not by our differences, but by our shared humanity. We are more alike than different, and kindness is something we should all strive for. We can all take the time to show kindness," Sergeant Leah Matthews thought as she carefully folded the note. She called the flight attendant over and asked her to deliver it to the man in 5A. The flight attendant, who had witnessed the earlier exchange, nodded and smiled, taking the note. Leah watched as the attendant handed the note to the man. He looked surprised when he opened it, his expression shifting from confusion to something deeper. Leah couldn't tell exactly what he was feeling, but she hoped her words made an impact. For the rest of the flight, as the plane descended, Leah felt at peace, knowing she had taken the high road. The man didn't look her way again. Instead, he seemed lost in thought, reading the note repeatedly. As the plane landed and Leah got ready to leave, excited to see her family, the man approached her. He looked different now, almost regretful, and held the note in his hand, unsure of what to say at first. "Thank you for your note," he began, his voice softer than before. "It really made me think. I realize now I was out of line. I judge you unfairly because of my own prejudices. I'm really sorry." Leah saw the sincerity in his eyes, and her heart softened. "Thank you," she replied quietly. "It takes courage to admit when we're wrong and learn from it." After a brief pause, the man held out his hand to her. "My name is David, and I just want to thank you for your service," he said. "My brother was a soldier too. He died in Afghanistan a few years ago. Seeing you brought up a lot of emotions, and I didn't know how to handle them." Leah felt a pang of sympathy as she shook his hand. "I'm so sorry for your loss," she said, her voice filled with genuine compassion. "Losing someone you love is never easy, especially in service to the country." David nodded, tears in his eyes. "Thank you for reminding me that we're all in this together," he muttered as they got off the plane. In that moment, Lee and David, two strangers, found a connection. Lee's note had bridged a gap, allowing them to see each other as humans, not as enemies. As they reached the gate, David looked at Lee one last time. "If you ever need anything, don't hesitate to ask." He handed her a business card. "And take care of yourself." Leah smiled, putting the card in her pocket. "You take care too," she said, watching him walk away. She felt a sense of peace come over her. This moment reminded her that even in difficult times, there's always room for growth and understanding. What started with conflict ended with mutual respect. Leah left the airport feeling hopeful again. She knew there would be challenges ahead, but there were also people, like David, willing to learn and connect with others through kindness and compassion. This was something worth fighting for. If you enjoy this beautiful story, please like and subscribe this channel for more interesting videos.